Okay, so today I got a mix of reports for you. I wanted to start with something out of Maine. A few videos ago, I showed how Vermont was bragging about their state park numbers. They claimed that the tourism was fine because the park numbers looked busy. Let's rewind to my previous video for a second and look what I said back then.
Again, the state parks data showed us that we turned it around and we're actually exceeding what we saw last year.
But this state park data as a benchmark for the tourism just doesn't make sense to me. Sure, you might have people visiting the state parks, but how much can you actually spend there? It's not like there are restaurants or retail shops or anything in the park. If you really want to measure your tourism, you should be looking at your hotel numbers, restaurant revenue, and retail sales. And we already know how this is going, because plenty of Vermont restaurants, bars, shops, and even hotels have all said they're down. Now here's why I bring that up. Maine is making the exact same claim. Their parks are packed, sure, but the money isn't there. Revenue is down, and that's where this first report comes in. I also have a story out of Memphis, hundreds of FedEx workers getting laid off, and an update from the parent company of Jack Daniels and their lack of sales. Before we start, I have another photo here from Larry from Ontario. He snapped a shot of Niagara Falls from the Canada side. I think the last time I was there, I was probably only about 10 years old, so it's definitely time for me to head back. Thanks for sending this in, Larry. Oh, and one more thing before we get rolling. Remember that Canadian Trump supporter who got denied at the border? I have an update on him at the end of the video, so you're going to want to see that. All right, let's jump into the report out of Maine.
You may have seen the recent headlines that Acadia National Park, just outside of Bar Harbor, had a record month when it came to visitors.
So did that translate to a boom of tourists coming to town? As News Center Maine's Christian Harsa found out, business owners say not really.
If Acadia National Park felt busy this summer, it's because it was.
This was the busiest summer on record for Acadia National Park.
The park reports seeing a record-breaking 797,000 visits in July. Spokesperson Amanda Pollock says attendance correlates strongly with weather.
We had a really sunny July. We had a lot of really great weather that people wanted to take advantage of. So, it wasn't surprising that we saw such high numbers.
Record-setting attendance in the park hasn't necessarily translated to record-setting sales for everyone in town.
So, my thoughts on Vermont boasting about their state park numbers is valid. Having visitors to your parks does not translate into revenue for the towns. I can see why the parks are busy though. Most of them are either free to get into or they charge a minimal fee. And with money being tight for the people in the US, they're skipping the hotels and longer trips. Instead, a day at the park, cheap or even free, ends up being the thing that people do on a budget.
Depending on who you talk to from the shopkeepers, some might be doing okay and on par with last year.
Bar Harbor Chamber of Commerce Executive Director Everell Eaton doesn't expect this summer to break records, citing a rainy start to the season.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's the rain. It's the rain that's keeping us away, right?
Owner of the Maine store and Rebel Lobster Speakeasy, Darren Stivnesly, says the habits of tourists are changing.
Instead of staying for a couple days or a week or 2 weeks like they have in the past, they're day tripping.
He reports customers are visiting from in-state or staying off the island to save money and commuting in.
Now, a lot of them are just coming in for a few hours, hitting the park. They're racking up that visit to the park. They're grabbing, an ice cream or what have you, and they're on their way.
So just like I said in my last video, state park numbers don't mean anything at all. I'm not bringing it up to brag. I'm pointing it out because Vermont and Maine officials keep using those numbers to spin the story, to make it seem like everything is fine. But have you noticed something? Not a single mention yet of Canadian and international tourists being gone. They do bring it up, but we're almost halfway through, and they haven't said a single word yet.
Owner of Cafe This Way, Susan Hathaway, says after 30 years of business, the Bar Harbor clientele is also changing.
A lot more people, college students coming for the weekends, a lot more avid national park goers.
Eaton reports many factors play into the sluggish business, including Bar Harbor's new cruise ship ban, an uncertain economy, and political strife. Canadians, which have been coming to Maine less this year according to Border Patrol, are canceling hotel stays, hurting motels and inns.
Is that they have been able to rebook those domestically this year, but it is something that's not guaranteed every year.
One possible silver lining, a nice fall. Pollock says if it's sunny and dry, autumn will likely have strong park attendance. In Bar Harbor, Christian Harsa, News Center, Maine.
Now I'm trying to wrap my head around the logic here. If you're not getting the numbers in the peak summer, what makes you think the fall is going to be any better? I can guarantee you one thing. You're not going to see any more Canadians heading to Maine. And watch, when the fall numbers flop, they're probably going to blame the weather again. This seems to be the go-to excuse these days, because they're sure as hell not blaming their president. Now, this next report is coming out of Memphis, and if you order from overseas through FedEx, This one might actually affect you.
FedEx is taking new steps toward cutting more jobs as the shipping giant moves forward with its major restructuring efforts.
So, of course, this is going to impact a lot of people. Now, the Memphis-based company just confirmed more than 1,000 layoffs across several states. ABC 24's Shakina Davis has what this means for Memphis's biggest employer.
The shipping giant filed a notice with the state of Tennessee announcing 611 layoffs at 2 Memphis facilities. That brings the total number of FedEx jobs cut nationally this year to more than 3,000. Let's break down what's happening and why. More than 600 employees at 2 FedEx supply chain facilities in Memphis will soon be off the job. FedEx employs more than 500,000 people worldwide. Here in Memphis, they're the area's largest employer with more than 32,000 workers.
I mentioned this might affect us in Canada. Maybe it will, but maybe it won't. When I order things from overseas, I notice a lot of the packages go through Memphis first, before it crosses the border over to the West Coast. So if there's fewer staff, the chances of delays or even lost packages go up. But let's take a look at this on a bigger scale. Why is this actually happening? My guess, it's pretty simple. Fewer packages going to the US. Could be the tariffs, and when there's fewer packages, that means less work for truckers. It's something that Josh from The Enemy Within was talking about in his videos a few weeks ago. Depots like FedEx or Walmart, these big companies, used to have long wait lines. Now, they don't have as many trucks coming in. And with fewer trucks on the road, that also means less traffic at the ports. It's a domino effect.
The latest round of cuts with the Memphis-based shipping giant take effect for workers at the Questway and Challenge Drive facilities on October 11th. The company filed a WARN notice with the state of Tennessee on Wednesday, laying out its layoff plan. But that's not all. FedEx also confirmed 481 jobs cut at 5 other facilities nationwide. The company is shutting down locations in Greensboro, North Carolina, and Omaha, Nebraska. 3 other facilities are staying open but cutting staff. That includes locations in Dallas and Des Moines. FedEx says it notified employees months ago, and many will get offers for other positions within the company. In a statement FedEx sent on August 13th, the company said, "We are committed to supporting affected employees through job placement assistance, relocation aid, or severance as applicable, including at other nearby FedEx facilities in the area."
I have to wonder, would the US be even in this situation if there wasn't any political instability caused by Donald Trump? Part of me wishes we could see the other timeline, like the one where Kamala Harris actually won. How would things be different, and how would it look right now? And it's not just the logistics taking a hit. Oh, geez. Pretty much every industry in the US is hurting, but shipping and logistics stands out to be one of the hardest hit.
The company says this is part of its Network 2.0 initiative. Think of it as a major overhaul of how the company operates. It says the goal is to save $2 billion annually through 2027. But here's the thing, the Memphis cuts aren't connected to Network 2.0. The company says those happen because of a big customer is moving its business to another logistics company. This brings FedEx total layoffs this year to at least 3,121 workers across 14 states.
So here's what just happened. I was recording. The cat was in the living room, totally quiet. Then she decides to prance into the room, and here we are. And no, she's not hungry. She just wants attention. And I can't give her attention because I'm trying to record. Anyways, back to the FedEx story. I think we're going to start seeing more bigger corporations laying off more people. When I first started this channel back in April, the MAGA crowd jumped into the comments and said everything was fine and that I was spreading propaganda. They even called me a Russian spy. But things like this don't happen overnight. And I think starting September, the US is really going to start to feel the pain. Speaking of pain, let's check in on the update on the Jack Daniel's parent company.
And thanks for sticking with us here at 5:30. Net sales are down 3% for Louisville-based Brown-Forman, the parent company of Jack Daniel's and Woodford Reserve. Brown-Forman's CEO cites a challenging economic environment, including tariffs. And in an earnings call this week, he reports that 3% decline in net sales over the last few months. Operating income, a key stat for profitability, is down around 7%, and organic net sales decreased 16% in the UK.
A big shout out to our community members in the UK. You're playing a big role in the decline of alcohol sales in the US, and that support does not go unnoticed. I have to say, I'm really impressed by how our international allies are standing with Canada, showing real solidarity against the United States. And it's not just the UK. The world feels a lot smaller to me lately. Yo, Hey! The world feels smaller to me lately because I know people in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and so many other countries are boycotting just as strongly as Canadians are. Kind of unity means a lot. So a big thank you and a shout out to all of our international viewers backing this movement.
Brown-Forman maintains better days are ahead for international trade partners. This comes as we're also seeing some smaller distilleries increase their sales. Isaiah Kim Martinez has the update.
It's best old-fashioned I think I've ever had.
This Labor Day weekend, folks like Don Taylor of South Carolina are getting their Kentucky bourbon experience in Louisville.
What is it about this old-fashioned here?
It's made with Michter's.
Bourbon tourism is still booming in the face of some serious headwinds. There's really no sugarcoating it.
Organic net sales in Germany declined 13%.
Doing business internationally,
A 9% decline in the developed international markets collectively.
for some of Kentucky's major bourbon companies,
Canada's organic net sales declined nearly 60%.
is tricky right now.
Beverage alcohol products produced in the United States remained off the shelves in the majority of the Canadian provinces.
Does anyone else get some satisfaction watching those old clips of Canadian liquor stores packing up the US alcohol? Let me know in the comments if you get the same feeling. Maybe it's just me. But it's always satisfying watching it. Now, this doesn't actually sound like booming to me. If businesses were really booming, would this mega alcohol official be begging for Canadians to put liquor back on the shelves? One report says they are booming. Another official is gaslighting Canada, saying we need their alcohol. Meanwhile, Kentucky distillers admit they got 25,000 barrels just sitting there. So which is it? At least get the story straight.
Despite that, Lawson Whiting, CEO of Louisville-based spirits giant Brown-Forman, says better days are ahead for their global trade partners, especially after Canada dropped its retaliatory tariffs on American alcohol.
We still know some provinces haven't restocked.
Yeah, some of the warehouses, it's still sitting there.
Andrea Wilson is the chief operating officer and master of maturation at Michter's Distillery in Louisville, a mid-size family-controlled brand.
But it's, it's sort of a mix across all of Canada.
But she's very optimistic for the future because through it all, Michter's has managed to increase sales 6% in the first half of this year.
We tend to be a super premium luxury brand, and there's a place for that in the marketplace.
I don't think she understands something. Just because the tariffs are gone doesn't mean the US alcohol is suddenly going to go back on the shelves. And even if it does go back on the shelves, like down the road, that doesn't mean people are going to buy it. My guess? She has no idea how pissed off Canadians are. She just assumes that once their alcohol is available again on the shelves, we'll go right back to buying it, like nothing happened.
Canada is the #1 export market for Michter's Distillery, and bit by bit, we're starting to see Canadian provinces end their boycott on Kentucky bourbon.
What the fuck? So just because the premiers in Alberta and Saskatchewan decided to bow down to Trump, you think the rest of Canada is going to do the same? And again, just because the alcohol is back on the shelves, do you really think people are going to buy it? I don't know about you, but this just pisses me off even more. I love to talk to this reporter face to face, give him the real Canadian point of view. Because no matter what government decides, if they decide to put it back on the shelves, they can't force us to buy their shitty alcohol again. Look at Alberta and Saskatchewan. Even though the US liquor is available, plenty of Canadians are still avoiding it altogether.
The hope here locally is the rest of them follow suit sooner rather than later.
The holiday season is coming. We hope to be able to be a part of that across all Canadian markets.
As the Labor Day bourbon pours easily in Louisville, in these next few months, distilleries are hoping for trade agreements that bring those spooked retailers overseas back to doing business again. Isaiah Kim Martinez, WHAS 11 on your side.
And the European Union, a major Kentucky bourbon market, has paused retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. spirits until February. And back to Brown-Forman, they do say they expect growth in countries like Brazil and Turkey. Some of their non-bourbon products are doing well too, and that includes tequila.
I've mentioned this before, but have you noticed how they always try to end the story with some fake positive news? Like sales are down 60% to the largest exporter. People in that country are pissed off, but somehow they still claim things are going to go well. That's US exceptionalism at its best, and no amount of explaining is ever going to break through their own beliefs. Now, she did bring up the European Union paused the retaliatory tariffs, but here's my question for our European viewers. Does that suddenly mean that you're going to buy US alcohol again, maybe because it's a little cheaper? I already know the answer, but I want to hear from you in the comments. If enough of you weigh in, I might make a video on it. Now, this last clip, Does everyone remember this guy? He's a Canadian citizen who's been a permanent resident in the US for something like 40 years. Never bothered to get citizenship, tried to cross back into the US and ended up getting denied. But the worst part of it? He acted like being stuck in Canada forever was some kind of punishment. Well, I have an update on him.
We'll be together again one way or another.
A promise fulfilled by Peterborough man Chris Landry, who is now back in the U.S. after being stuck in Canada for nearly a month.
I may not be an American citizen, but I am a contributor to society. I have a job, a home.
Landry told WMUR in July he never expected a quick trip to Canada would leave him stuck for weeks. Old drug convictions from 2004 and 2007 blocked his return.
How's he doing? I think he's happy to be home.
Attorney Ron Abramson says Landry, a U.S. permanent resident, never had a lawyer during those drug pleas, a key reason a New Hampshire court vacated the convictions, clearing the way for his return.
As far as I know, he wants to get back to his life. I think, like many people, he won't take anything for granted after an experience like this, where felt like it was very close to being, having your entire life derailed over something old and minor and out of your control largely.
Landry is asking for privacy but tells News 9, quote, "I want to express my sincere gratitude to everyone who stood by me during this time, especially my family who remained patient and supportive."
I only have one thing to say to this guy. Go get your US citizenship. Because if you honestly think being stuck in Canada forever is like some kind of punishment, then we don't want you here. You hold a Canadian passport. And to be real, you're an embarrassment to Canadians. So do us a favor. Apply for your US citizenship and give up your Canadian passport. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my message to Chris Landry. If you found this video helpful, hit the like and subscribe button so the message reaches more people. And share it with your friends as well. And if you're still here and you want to see more of my videos, check out the other ones that are popping up on your screen now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.